Life can sometimes bring together people with questionable morals, as if drawn by an invisible force. One shouldn't expect anything good to come from such individuals. However, today's story is about people so shameless that they manage to profit handsomely from their immorality. The main character of this tale, Amy Fisher, was born on August 21, 1974, in Merrick, New York, USA. She was the only child in the family. Her parents got married when her mother was 21 and her father was already 38. It was his third marriage. On the surface, the couple seemed like an ordinary family, and after some time they had a baby girl. Amy grew up to be a slightly shy and modest girl, although many found her to be a little rascal. However, this trait wasn't too pronounced and rather complemented her childish image. The Fisher family was quite well off, so from an early age their only daughter never wanted for anything. However, the child always felt a certain loneliness. Although Amy's parents doted on her, they worked a lot and spent little time with her. As a result, the girl grew close to her grandmother and aunt. Amy's father was a stern and harsh man. He could punish both his wife and daughter for any transgression. The girl was even a bit afraid of him. The parents often had fights, and each time Amy secretly hoped it would lead to their divorce. But the father, being a skilled manipulator, kept his wife under control, so she was simply afraid to leave him. At an early age, the heroine of this story became a victim of sexual abuse. She was abused by a man close to the family when she was only 6 years old, but she didn't tell anyone about it. At the age of 13, Amy was violated again, this time by a worker hired to do repairs in their home. Once more, the girl kept silent. These events left deep psychological scars on her soul. Amy's school years passed like most teenagers. She had a group of close friends and a beloved dog she spent a lot of time walking. During this period, the girl dreamed of going to college and becoming a fashion designer to create designer clothes. To most acquaintances, she seemed like just a sweet girl who adored her dog. But those who got closer to Amy noticed a rebellious streak in her. The girl often got into trouble at school, skipped classes with her boyfriend, and occasionally forged grades on her report card. Closer to graduation, she even got into a fight with an older girl. As a result of this incident, Amy ended up in the hospital with a broken nose and jaw. In February 1991, she ran away from home. The reason for her escape was a heated phone argument with her mother when Amy wanted to spend the night at a friend's house. Her father, overhearing the quarrel, took the phone and threatened punishment if his daughter came home after the sleepover. So the girl had to wander around and ask to stay the night at various friends' places, her aunts and her grandmother's. The fear of her father's wrath prevented her from returning home, while her father had already filed a missing person report with the police. He described Amy as an unbalanced, uncontrollable, and even dangerous person. Eventually, the police managed to return the schoolgirl home. The same year, the girl found out she was pregnant, which came as a real shock to her and her boyfriend. Fortunately, her aunt helped Amy get an without her parents even knowing. In May 1991, while driving out of the garage, Amy accidentally hit the side mirror of her car. She was afraid of her father's anger over this. Once before, the girl had turned to an auto repair shop with a similar problem, where the mechanic quickly fixed the car so that even her meticulous father didn't notice anything. So this time, Amy decided to go to the same shop on her own. There she met the owner named Joey Buttafuoco. This meeting turned out to be truly fateful. Joey was married to Mary Jo, the eldest of 5 daughters from a Catholic family in the suburbs of Long Island, New York. The future spouses met in 1971 while in high school and attending summer courses. Joey was a charming and funny guy. His mother had died when he was only 11, and as a teenager he was still struggling with this loss. But his new girlfriend Mary became a source of support for him. Soon after they met, a romantic relationship developed between them. The young couple got along wonderfully. In 1977, they got married and bought a house next to Joey's family auto shop. During that period, the couple worked hard during the day and indulged in entertainment in the evenings. But this carefree life ended as soon as Mary became pregnant. This did not fit into their plans. They had intended to have children much later when they were more settled. But circumstances changed. Mary started to adjust to a more responsible adult life, and the more effort she made, the more obvious Joey's resistance became. While his wife stayed home to rest, her husband continued to party as before. Mary didn't object, hoping that eventually her husband would get his fill of fun and come to his senses. Soon the couple had their firstborn, Paul. By that point, the young mother had completely abandoned her old way of life, striving to be a good mother and wife. But Joey, it seemed, was not at all on board with this. He continued to waste all his free time at parties. Moreover, he got hooked on illegal substances. The man would go to work early in the morning, return late at night, or disappear for days at a time. Joey always found convincing excuses, as lying came incredibly easily to him. Mary put up with this state of affairs for a long time, barely seeing her husband. But eventually her patience ran out, and she started talking about divorce more and more often. However, Joey always managed to somehow calm his wife down. Soon, Mary became pregnant for the second time, so thoughts of divorce began to seem completely inappropriate. In 1983, she gave birth to a daughter, Jessica. The young mother continued to do her best to maintain the illusion of a perfect family, while Joey didn't abandon his destructive habit. Against this backdrop, Mary began to feel guilty for what was happening, considering herself a failure. She brought herself to a state where panic attacks started happening more and more often. That's when the woman turned to a psychotherapist who helped her cope with these problems. However, the issue of her husband's complete uncontrollability remained unresolved. Mary had no choice but to start taking prescribed medication, continue to take care of the children, and hope for the best. Gradually, the young mother came to the decision to return to the Long Island suburbs where the family had lived before moving. There, in her opinion, Joey would be far from his auto shop, parties, and friends who had a bad influence on him. Mary managed to convince her husband of the need to change their place of residence. The couple planned to buy a house. To Mary's great surprise, Joey found a buyer for their property quite quickly, one who could pay in cash right away. It seemed like the best news one could hope for. The family could move immediately. Finally, when all the things were packed and the Buttafuoco family was waiting for the money to pay for the new home, on the very day they were supposed to leave, Joey confessed to the deception. It turned out he had mortgaged the house and given all the proceeds to his dealer. Joey had run up so much debt that he had to put up the family property as collateral. Only then was he able to pay off his debts. This news came as a real shock. In fact, a family with 2 children was left on the street without a cent to their name. But they were lucky. Joey's father came to the rescue, giving the necessary amount for the down payment on a new house in Massapequa, Long Island. However, he didn't do it for nothing. Seeing that his son was unable to run the business, the man was afraid of losing the auto repair shop too. So, while providing the money, he stripped Joey of the right to the family business. In fact, Joey became a simple worker in his father's shop. But even after everything that happened, Mary didn't give up and forgave her husband. She enrolled him in a rehab program, which fortunately helped. Joey quit and never went back to them. The next few years of Mary and Joey's married life resembled an endless honeymoon. It seemed Mary managed to turn the tide of events in her favor, and they finally experienced true happiness. However, Mary didn't foresee that someone else might appear in their lives. In May 1991, exactly 1 year after her first visit, Amy Fisher came back to the auto repair shop to fix her car. The girl was desperate to hide it from her father, as she had no money for repairs. She had to make up a story, and Joey agreed to play along. According to the legend, Amy brought the car in for a routine maintenance, and at night, while the car was in the shop, someone accidentally hit the mirror and knocked it off. Her father believed this tall tale, and Amy was delighted with Joey, who helped her avoid her father's anger and slaps. From then on, the girl's car became a regular customer at the auto repair shop, stopping by for the smallest repairs. Probably, Amy deliberately made minor damage to the body to see Joey more often. Of course, she was too young for him. The age difference was almost 20 years. But this didn't bother the girl at all, and she openly flirted with the mechanic. On July 2nd, Amy came to the auto shop again, this time to install an audio system. The job required leaving the car for a few hours. The girl's father couldn't pick her up, so Joey turned to his own father, but he was busy too. In the end, Joey himself offered to give Amy a ride home, and she gladly agreed. When they pulled up to the house, the man asked for a tour, which Amy also agreed to. It was there in her parents' home that intimacy first happened between them. From then on, the girl began to consider Joey her boyfriend. That same evening, the lovers met again. Despite the fact that Amy was only 16 and Joey was 35, they went to a motel. Their affair lasted a whole year. The girl constantly visited the auto repair shop. The couple met at the motel and at Amy's home. Joey seemed sweet and attentive. He clearly pressed on the sore points, knowing about the girl's difficult relationship with her father and feeling how vulnerable she was. The man bought expensive gifts for his young chosen one, took her to restaurants, gave her rides on his boat. Of course, Amy was delighted and fell head over heels in love. The age difference didn't bother her at all. On August 21, 1991, the girl turned 17. A month after her birthday, she came to Joey and said she needed money. By then, he had already lost his management position at the shop, so he couldn't allocate the required amount. Instead, Joey made an unusual proposal. He thought Amy could make good money by selling her body. The girl agreed and started working as a call girl. Later in her confessions, Amy said that Joey loved to hear the details of her meetings with clients. At the same time, their own intimate relationship didn't stop. It was a sick relationship between two abnormal people that couldn't end well. Shortly before the tragic events, at Joey's insistence, Amy broke off relations with her aunt, almost the only person in the family who supported her. The girl was left completely without support from her family. Against the backdrop of these events, Amy asked her lover to leave his wife, but Joey didn't try to make up excuses and bluntly said he wouldn't do it. Although he led a dissolute lifestyle, it turned out that he actually loved Mary and the children very much and would not leave the family under any circumstances. This rejection came as a real shock to Amy. She decided to stop all meetings with Joey. But the young lover couldn't cope with her feelings, and sometime after the breakup, she even tried to take her own life. Realizing the depth of her attachment, the girl resumed the relationship with the married man. Around the same time, Joey began complaining more and more about the alleged complete breakdown of his marriage. He claimed that he no longer had the same strong feelings for his wife, and even confessed to Amy that he sometimes wished Mary was dead. The man stated that he had caught his wife cheating multiple times, that she had become simply unbearable and was turning his life into hell. At the same time, Joey always found new reasons why he hadn't divorced yet. Usually it all came down to the children, whom he supposedly didn't want to traumatize. Amy unconditionally believed her lover, sincerely sympathized with him, and continued the relationship. Gradually, these false confessions turned into a murder plan in the girl's head. Amy concluded that if Mary was shot, Joey would finally get rid of his hated wife. As it turned out later, Amy even tried to hire two of her classmates as hitmen at first. For this service, she offered them $400 and sex with her. But the guys refused such an escapade, so the plan was in jeopardy. The situation unexpectedly changed when Amy started going to the gym and met the owner, 30-year-old Paul Makeley. A romance developed between them. In addition, the girl regularly met with 3 regular clients, providing them with intimate services. By that time, she had already abandoned the intermediary agency and worked directly. Amy willingly shared the details of her life with Paul, so he quickly realized what Joey was involved in. The man tried to persuade his lover to end the relationship with the married mechanic. Meanwhile, Joey himself, upon learning about Amy's new romance, got worried, fearing he might lose his young mistress. He tried to intervene in their relationship, but to no avail. Now Paul and Amy wanted revenge on Joey. They planned to expose his secret affair with the girl to his wife, Mary. To implement the plan, Amy found an accomplice, a 21-year-old guy named Peter Guagenti. He was to become the driver and give the girl a ride to the Buttafuoco's house. The conspirators even stole license plates from someone's random car to use them for Peter's vehicle. On May 19, 1992, Amy supposedly went to school, but had no real intention of going to classes. The girl immediately turned to the school nurse, complained of feeling unwell, and was sent home. Peter was already waiting for her at the entrance in his car. They quickly changed the plates and headed to the Buttafuocos' home. At 11:30 a.m., Amy knocked on the door. Mary was home alone at the time, painting. She opened the door. The stranger asked to come out on the porch, saying she had an important conversation. Introducing herself under a fake name, the girl claimed that Joey was having an affair with her 14-year-old sister. But Mary didn't believe a single word. She was firmly convinced that her husband had given up his womanizing and became an exemplary family man. The hostess's mistrust greatly irritated and angered Amy. Then the young avenger showed a t-shirt with the logo of the auto repair shop where Joey worked. But even this didn't shake Mary's confidence. She coldly replied to the schoolgirl that she couldn't prove anything with just a print on her clothes. A fierce argument broke out between the women. For 15 minutes, Amy tried every way to convince her interlocutor of Joey's marital infidelity. The schoolgirl squirmed as best she could, hiding her real place of residence, age, and the nature of her relationship with the mechanic. But the more convoluted her lies became, the less plausible they sounded. Finally, Mary lost her patience. She resolutely turned around, headed for the door, and threw over her shoulder for the girl to get out. The hostess clearly didn't believe a single word she heard, and wasn't going to waste any more time on idle talk. Mary's brazen attitude finally infuriated Amy. The girl pulled out a .25 caliber pistol, obtained the day before, along with Peter. In a fit of rage, Amy hit the woman on the head twice, and then accidentally pulled the trigger. A shot rang out. The bullet hit Mary in the head. The recoil turned out to be surprisingly strong, so much so that Amy couldn't stay on her feet. The schoolgirl fell to the ground, and Mary's bloody body collapsed on top of her. Coming to her senses, Amy pushed the wounded woman away with all her might, jumped to her feet, and fled, jumping into her accomplice's car. The horrified girl didn't expect such a turn of events. Trembling with fear, she confessed to Peter that the gun fired accidentally. She said she just wanted to scare Mary and take off. Then the young people hastily got rid of the weapon and Amy's bloody clothes, throwing the items into a sewer hole not far from the girl's house. Amy returned home and pretended nothing had happened, calmly spending the rest of the day. Meanwhile, a passerby heard a loud bang and came closer to see what had happened. He didn't find Amy, but instead saw a bloody Mary lying unconscious on the porch. The man ran to the neighboring house to call an ambulance. The medics arrived promptly. They stated that the bullet had hit a vital artery and shattered the jaw. The wounded woman had lost a lot of blood. Her condition was critical. If it weren't for the help of the caring passerby, Mary would have had no chance of survival. But even in the hospital where the woman was urgently taken, doctors estimated her chances as 50-50. The bullet that was lodged in the spinal area couldn't be removed. Mary was connected to life support machines, and her life was fought for all night. Fortunately, a few days later, the woman regained consciousness and was able to describe the attacker to the police. She recounted the same story about a teenage girl accusing Joey of having a relationship with her younger sister. However, Amy introduced herself under a fake name and gave a false address, so this information wasn't of much help to the investigation. However, Mary recalled an interesting detail: the attacker's t-shirt with the logo of the auto repair shop where her husband worked. The cops immediately went to see Joey, but he assured them that he had given out a bunch of such t-shirts as part of an advertising campaign. However, the mechanic had a photo of his underage lover, which she herself had given him. Suspecting that Amy might be involved in the attack, Joey handed the photo over to the police. Mary recognized the girl in the photo as her assailant. In fact, the lover himself turned Amy in. Just 2 days after the incident, on May 21st, the girl was detained right on the street near her house. What followed was a 12-hour interrogation, and without the presence of Amy's parents or lawyer, which, given the suspect's minor status, was a direct violation of the law. The detained girl's mother and father didn't even know what had happened. When they returned home in the evening and didn't find their daughter, they simply thought Amy had run away again, so they weren't too worried about her absence at night. The police, for some reason, didn't inform the parents that their child was in custody and suspected of attempted murder. They found out about this later. and the father was bursting with anger over his daughter's antics. Of course, as soon as the public became aware of the details of what happened, journalists pounced on the topic of the spoiled schoolgirl who, at 17, was already leading a criminal and immoral lifestyle. The media savored the details of how an underage prostitute with a gun attacked a decent married woman. The community was shocked and outraged. Reporters were looking for any details from Amy's life to sensationalize the story. It got to the point where a video was published online showing the girl servicing another client. 2 weeks after her arrest, Amy still hadn't pleaded guilty. She was taken into custody with the right to post bail of $2 million. By that time, the story of the young criminal had gained such notoriety that everyone was rushing to interview her. There were plans to write a book and even shoot a movie about the adventures of the Long Island Lolita, as journalists dubbed Amy. The girl was paid hefty fees for exclusive interviews, so she was able to cover the bail and await trial at home. However, the media activity dealt a devastating blow to Amy's reputation. Now everyone knew about the shameful way she made money. Amy herself insisted that she was pushed to illegal actions by Joey, who forced her to sell her body at a minor age. This is what the girl's lawyers built their line of defense on. Joey denied everything. His wife Mary also had to make deals to participate in various talk shows, but out of necessity, to pay off the hefty hospital bills. Joey still denied any connection with Amy, but the investigation managed to find 13 receipts from the motel where he visited with his young lover. Their secret meetings were also confirmed by several local employees. Amy openly testified against Joey in court. But it was possible to finally prove their intimate relationship, thanks to FBI handwriting experts who confirmed that the signatures on the receipts did belong to the mechanic. Despite the obvious evidence, Joey stubbornly called everything fabricated. His wife was also on her husband's side and refused to believe Amy. In conversations with the police, the couple openly mocked the attacker. While Amy was at large awaiting trial, she didn't waste time and prepared for court. All the money earned from interviews went to bail, so there was nothing to pay the lawyer with. He agreed to defend her for free. There were rumors that Amy was sleeping with her defender. He clearly had feelings for her, because he even sent poems and love letters to his underage client. However, Amy's charms wouldn't have been enough to avoid a guilty verdict. On the lawyer's advice, the girl agreed to a plea deal with the prosecution. Given the presence of a weapon and motive, it was nearly impossible to prove the accidental nature of the shot and get an acquittal. On September 23, 1992, Amy, who had turned 18 by then, officially pleaded guilty to attempted murder in the first degree. She insisted that she did it in a fit of rage, wanting to take revenge on Joey. But the wife refused to listen to her, so when the woman turned away, Amy hit her on the head with the gun twice, and then, allegedly, the weapon accidentally fired, and the bullet hit Mary in the head. Amy claimed that she had no intention of killing, that it was just an unfortunate coincidence that she regretted. Later, journalists found out about the intimate relationship between Amy and the gym owner, Paul Makeley. The man, as it turned out, also sought to profit from the situation. Paul also wanted to cash in on the scandalous story, drawing the attention of the mass media. He even secretly installed a hidden camera in his gym and got the girl to have a frank conversation. Amy told a lot of interesting things, in particular about her desire to marry Paul, because marital status would allow them to make visits to prison. The girl admitted that she liked the attention of the press, and she wanted to get on the front pages because they paid well for it. With the money earned from selling her story, Amy planned to buy a Ferrari. When the criminal realized that Paul had simply used her, she once again tried to settle scores with her life. After that, the girl was sent for compulsory treatment to a psychiatric clinic, where she spent several months. On December 2nd, Amy appeared in court to hear the verdict. During the hearing, Mary expressed extremely negative views about the video recording made by Paul and shown during the hearing. In it, Amy cynically stated that she was making money from the crime she committed. Obviously, she felt no remorse, which contradicted her version of the allegedly accidental shot. Mary considered the plea deal extremely unfair, because according to its terms, Amy was to be released in just 2 years and 9 months. Such a punishment did not correspond to the severity of the crime. The victim of the attack miraculously survived, but half of her face remained paralyzed. Because of the bullet lodged near her spine, Mary lost hearing in her right ear. The woman was tormented by constant pain. She had problems with her vision. But the most terrifying thing, according to the doctors, was that even a slight displacement of the bullet could lead to complete paralysis or death. When the defendant was given the last word, she asked for forgiveness while blaming everything on Joey. Amy insisted that her lover knew about her intention to shoot his wife from the very beginning and encouraged her in every possible way. The girl tried to shift the blame onto Joey, although there was no evidence of his involvement in the assassination attempt. In fact, this way Amy herself admitted that she had planned the murder, and therefore the shot was by no means accidental. Several witnesses confirmed that Amy had asked them to shoot Mary. It turns out that the girl had wished for her rival's death from the beginning and hated her lover's wife. The examination showed that the weapon was completely serviceable and could not have fired by accident, especially considering the trajectory of the bullet and the traces of blows on the victim's head. Amy and her accomplice Peter's thorough preparation for the visit to the Buttafuoco's house also raised suspicions. Why steal someone else's license plates and get a gun? Everything pointed to a premeditated assassination attempt. During the trial, Mary read a letter from her 9-year-old daughter. The girl begged to keep Amy behind bars for as long as possible, so that she could never hurt her mother again. These childish words dealt a crushing blow to Amy. The hope of getting no more than 2 years and 9 months in prison was shattered to smithereens. Amy Fisher was forced to plead guilty to first-degree assault under aggravating circumstances. The court sentenced her to 15 years in prison with the right to parole after 5 years. The judge described Amy's behavior as that of a wild animal chasing its prey, driven by lust and passion. Peter Guagenti, the 21-year-old guy who drove Amy to the Buttafuoco's house, was also arrested and charged with complicity. He was sentenced to 6 months in prison. At the same time, the prosecutor stated that law enforcement officials had no intention of bringing charges against Joey, since Amy's words lacked credibility. From then on, the mechanic set about whitewashing his reputation, tarnished by the media. He energetically took up the matter. Together with his wife, he visited several talk shows where he assured everyone of his innocence, and then the couple arranged a kind of press tour, giving interviews on various channels throughout the country. During this period, the prosecutor's office began to receive massive calls from outraged citizens who believed that Joey should also appear before the court as an accomplice to the crime. A few months later, even employees of the family auto repair shop spoke out against him, who personally heard Joey boasting about his relationship with a 16-year-old schoolgirl. Law enforcement officials could no longer ignore such testimony. In April 1993, Joey was arrested and charged with corrupting a minor and endangering the welfare of a child. The man made a deal with the investigation and pleaded guilty. According to the agreement, he was to spend only 6 months behind bars and pay a fine of $5,000. Joey himself made a pretty penny from this whole story, so he appeared for sentencing in full dress, in fancy clothes and a luxury car. Many got the impression that he had arrived at the Oscars. The defendant was surrounded by a crowd of supporters chanting his name. In his speech, Joey stated that he had become a victim of unjust persecution because of his affair with an underage schoolgirl who had clouded his mind. The man complained that he had to sacrifice 6 months of freedom to put an end to this spectacle. After pleading guilty, Joey actually served only 4 months, after which he was released. But his problems with the law did not end there. In 1995, Joey was arrested again, this time for pimping in Los Angeles. He again claimed his innocence, saying that the incident was orchestrated by the police to get revenge on him. And since Joey was on probation at the time, he had to go back to jail for the remaining 75 days. Against the backdrop of these events, Mary fell into a deep depression. The woman became addicted to the painkillers she constantly took to dull the pain. When the family moved to Los Angeles, the former victim of the attack became addicted to alcohol. Later, Mary underwent a rehabilitation course and life began to improve. Amy served her sentence under harsh conditions. She complained of several instances of prison guards. The girl even secretly passed her underwear to her mother for examination. The tests confirmed that sexual acts had indeed taken place. But given Amy's reputation, no one could believe in her non-consensual participation. The prisoner asked to be transferred to another facility, but the prison administration rejected the request. In 1999, after 7 years behind bars, Amy was released on parole. At a meeting with the commission, the girl confessed through tears that the attack on her lover's wife was solely her initiative. Amy stated that she finally realized the full horror of what she had done, so she was released. After Amy's release, Mary caught her husband cheating many more times. The woman could no longer put up with his endless womanizing, and in 2003, after 26 years of marriage, the couple divorced. In the same period, Joey was arrested again, this time for attempted insurance fraud with his own car. It seemed that this man had learned nothing in his life. Joey tried his hand at acting, sought fame on television, but never achieved much success. Joey remarried and continues to lead an eccentric lifestyle. After the divorce, Mary underwent facial surgery that restored her ability to smile normally. In addition, the woman partially regained her hearing. All these years, she was incessantly supported by her children. In 2009, Mary published an autobiographical book in which she told the story of her life. For a long time, she felt only hatred for Amy, who burst into her life and nearly took it away by shooting her in the head. But in the process of rehabilitation, Mary realized that it was time to let go of the past and stop tormenting herself. So in the end, she found the strength to forgive Amy's crippled soul. In 2010, Mary remarried and moved to California. There, the woman became a grandmother and enjoys a quiet, measured life. After her release from prison, Amy went to Florida. There, she co-authored 2 books about her life, trying to regain popularity and earn money. The woman even made a fake video where she and Joey were supposedly back together. But the public had already lost interest in this story, so the plan to revive her fame failed. Amy began working as a webcam model and porn actress, often appearing on television in various talk shows, telling her story over and over again. Later, she married a former New York cop and gave birth to 3 children. But this marriage turned out to be short-lived, and in 2015 the couple divorced. The eldest son stayed with his father, and Amy, with the 2 youngest children, returned to Long Island, where she settled in her mother's house. For a while, the woman danced striptease in a bar, but soon abandoned this occupation. However, Amy continues to work as a webcam model to this day. Her ex-husband does not approve of this choice. He advises his ex-wife to buy a modest house somewhere in the wilderness where no one knows her, find a normal job, and lead a more respectable lifestyle. But Amy rejects this advice. Despite the fact that now she tries to be more careful in her webcam model activities so as not to harm her children, who are teased at school because of their mother's dubious past, the woman likes to live this way. To attract less media attention, Amy changed her name to Liz and turned the page on publicity. That's the terrible story. I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if the story resonated with you. Until next time, friends.